TeriGigi here. I am here today to share with you how I have become a reader. I've been able to read for years, and I used to read at night all through my married years, because every single night if I went in my mom's room, she was reading a paperback novel. And I thought that's what you did when you grew up, you know? And so I didn't read in high school at all, but when I first got married, I started drinking coffee and reading Danielle Steele novels, because she was big back then. And I read for years and years and years. I loved it. I loved reading. Well, as time went on, my eyesight got worse and worse and worse, and I just quit reading in bed at night. And I just couldn't make myself read in the middle of the day. It just seemed weird. It seemed like a waste of time or something. And so I just quit reading, like, for real. Like, maybe I'd read 1 or 2 novels a year. But I always read laying down, and as I've shared before, my glasses would get all, I cannot wear contacts. They're not possible they don't help my eyesight enough. And so I just quit because it was a pain. Okay, how do you become a reader? Let's get into it. How do you find time to read? I found this article, I've already torn it out because I don't keep magazines. It is from Real Simple September edition. And it says, yes, you can find time to read. Enjoying books doesn't have to happen only when you're on vacation. Use these tips to fit a few pages into your busy day. Here's different things that it says. I'll give it to you in a nutshell. People say, I wish I had more time to read. And what they're saying is, don't think you have to set aside this huge chunk of time to read. Keep a book or a Kindle or whatever with you or around, so that when you have 10 minutes, sit down and read a little bit. You know what I mean? So that was the first misconception, is that you have to have these big chunks of time in order to read. You don't. You can have that, but you can also just read as you go. Read what you want to read as long as you want, as slow, as fast. There's no rules. You don't have to sit down for long stretches of time. Most insatiable readers, their top tip is read in short bursts, as well as uninterrupted hours when they're available. That's your phone and your devices, because you will don't even look towards your TV, because it's easier to sit and be fed than to sit and read. It's easier to just, as I've heard from one of my great people that taught me so much online, is eating Cool Whip. This is Cool Whip. It's not doing you any good. So eliminate the distractions of all your devices. You can even turn them off, or silent or something. Of course, you can use tech to your advantage if you want to read on a Kindle or an iPad, but don't go to anything else if it's time to read. Tweak your habits. If you want to start reading more, make it a habit at a certain time. Like, when I finish this, I'm going to read. Mine is always when it gets to be 2 o'clock, I'm reading. I'm reading from 2 to 3 or 2 to 4 even, if Scott's late or something. So that's my cue to read, is 2 o'clock. It's so easy. And then when I go to bed, that's another clue. Cue to read is when I'm in bed. Organize and track your progress. This has been really fun. I got an app that I mark every single day. At first I had a schedule. I want to read 2 novels a month. And I would read at least 20 minutes a day or 30 minutes a day. So I would set a timer and all that. I thought, no. As soon as I started reading, I realized I didn't have to have any rules, because I realized I'm going to keep doing it. But I do track my progress. There is an app called Strides. And on this app, I keep track of daily reading and taking my vitamins morning and night. So every day it dings me. In the afternoon, the daily reading will ding me to remind me. I don't really need it, but I keep a track of it, and you can see how many days in a row you have read. I'm trying to see if I can see my days. Lately, I've read 32 of 33 days. when I started tracking it. I've read 32 out of 33. Not too bad. And now I'm on a new streak. I set it for 89 days. I don't know if that was 3 months from where I was or something, but now I'm on a new streak of 10 days in a row without missing. So that's pretty good. So track your progress. It's kind of fun and you feel satisfied every time you get to check off that you read. Here it says make it interactive. A book club is a great way to do that. The other thing is parallel reading. Read, if you have children, have a time that you get to sit down and read in the quiet and they sit down and read or look at picture books or whatever the case may be. So you have a reading time. Have fun by keeping track or having a friend that's reading, or get with a friend and share book ideas. Say, oh my gosh, I just read this book, and trade books, or just tell them the name so they can get it on their library thing. You know, you can get these books from the library now sent to your Kindle. You can borrow them that way, which is pretty cool. The Audible is a way. If you just can't sit down and read and you want to listen to a book, that's a way to do it. I don't have that kind of focus, because my mind will start wandering if I'm not physically holding a real book. Make a little stack of books as you read them. Like, I'm kind of sad some of mine are going to be from the library. I'd love to keep just a stack, you know, for the year. Be so fun. So anyway, that's just some ideas to become a reader. And I can't believe how easily it happened for me just when I got past that mental block, that I didn't have to lay down to read in my bed. I can sit up with my pillows and everything. And now I kind of look forward to it, because I'll go in there like an hour before Scott. Like if he's watching a show or something that I don't like, which, you know, Wicked Tuna or something, I'll say, do you mind if I go read? And he'll go, no. So I go in there and read in the peace and quiet, sort of. And then he comes in and he reads every night, and he reads tons and tons of books a year. So I had someone reading right next to me and I just didn't do it. So I made a list. I have some of the books here. Some of them I'll put a picture somewhere. The first book I started in I think it was January. Let me see, I wrote it down. January 6th is when I began this. When I got here after being at Christmas and all that, I got back to the apartment. And this is the first book I picked up. I have had this book for a couple of years. No, I've had this book a couple of months. I bought it at a discount store we have here in town that has tons and tons of books. And I thought this book was interesting. It's called The Aviator's Wife by Melanie Benjamin. And it caught my eye because my dad was an airline pilot, so I thought this might be interesting. And I cannot say enough about this book, y'all. Fantastic. Not at all what I expected. It's about Charles Lindbergh, but it's from his wife's point of view. It's tons of research in it. It was fascinating to me how aviation started, and it just gives so much history, and it was amazing, and it was a great story of love and marriage and heartache and hardship, and oh my gosh, loved this book. Loved it. So that was my first book. So I'm so glad I got with a really good one to start with, or I might have just quit. Fantastic. So I read that between the 6th and the 20th. So on January 20th, my original goal was to read 2 novels a month, but I think I'm going to pass that. Seriously, y'all. Was this book, Murder on the Eiffel Tower. I hope you can see it with that light. This is a book I bought years ago just as decoration because I thought it was so beautiful. I never thought about reading it. I had no idea what it was about. I wasn't reading. So it was decoration, and I paid $4.97 for it in some bookstore out front where they put the book racks, or at least they used to. So for whatever reason, I picked this one up and decided to read it. Oh my gosh, y'all. It was so interesting. It was all about right when the Eiffel Tower was built, at the World Expo or the World's Fair, whatever they used to have all over the country at different times. It's when it was in France, and that's what the Eiffel Tower was built for, as a showpiece, and it was never intended to stay up all these years, but they ended up leaving it, and it still stands. So it's a great engineering feat, which it talks about that, but there's all these murders, and I will admit that if I had not been to Paris many, many, many times, I don't know if I would have made it through this book. It was difficult because of so many different names. But it kept me going because they kept talking about different streets. And about every third street, I knew exactly where they were. I knew exactly where they were standing and all this stuff. So it was really, that part was cool. But I figured out why it was difficult to read, because when I was finished, I looked it up just thinking, what's the deal with this author? Well, it's not, I thought it was a man, Claude Eisner. It's not a man, it's two French women that wrote it. So it was translated. So that's another reason some of it was difficult. Anyway, I got through it. I absolutely loved it. I can't believe it's been sitting in my house for years and I never touched it. Book 3 was a book. Sometimes I buy books at the Dollar Tree for decoration. And I had bought 2 books for decoration at the beach, but they were still here because of the color of their cover. And so I decided to buy them. So the other one, I don't remember the name, but I read about a third of it. And it just got so rude and distasteful, and I just couldn't finish it. I knew I shouldn't finish. I didn't want that stuff in my brain. It had profanity in it, had situations, and finally about a third of the way through, I could tell this was going to get worse. It was sprinkled in the beginning, but I could tell it was going to be worse. And then there was one sentence in there. I said, that's it, I'm done. And I put it in the Goodwill pile, and I said, no, I put it in the trash can. I didn't want to give it to anyone else to read. So there you have it. So I quit that book, which is, you can do that. That's okay. So I went and got a library card in town. And these books I don't have because I've already returned them. But between July 24th and February 6th, I read Message in a Bottle by Nicholas Sparks. Yeah, Nicholas Sparks. And I read Nights in Rodanthe. Even though I had seen both movies, it was a long, long time ago, and I couldn't remember at all what happened. And when I went in the library, I didn't have any idea what to go get. I didn't know where to go, and I ran across Nicholas Sparks' big section. So I just grabbed 2 books just to read. They were both good, very good. I enjoyed them very much. And then on February 6th, I didn't really have anything. I was at the beach when I finished Nights at Rodanthe, so I started reading Little Women on my iPad. So I read that one also periodically. You can read 2 books at once, y'all. That's another thing, especially if you kind of know how the other one's going. So February 6th, I started reading this book. This was from the Dollar Tree too. I liked the color of the book. I want to have a lot of this bluish green, oceany looking color on my bookshelf at the beach. And so I thought, well, I might as well see what this one's. Y'all, this book is so good, so surprising. And the author is Alex George, and he's in the back. And I am going to find him in the library and get more of his books, because this one's wonderful. I'm about halfway finished with it, and I can't say enough. But while I was reading this, I also saw this at the library. I got 2 new books now at the library. I'm reading this one, Dementia Reimagined, Building a Life of Joy and Dignity from Beginning to End. It's by Tia Powell. So interesting. There's some dementia in my family, and wow, this book has made me look at it in such a different way. Oh, I can't even tell you. It's awesome, but it's full. I've skipped a lot of it, honestly, because it's so much. It's the history of Alzheimer's from way back, and then throughout our country and the UK. I don't know if this woman's from there, because it focuses a lot on the UK and how they've been dealing with it, and then the future for it, because they don't have a cure. but the future of how we need to start looking at it, because more and more and more and more people, as baby boomers die off, are going to have it because we're living so much longer. So it's a beautiful book. And I'll just tell you, part of what I learned at the end of the book, which I'm going to reread the last few chapters over and over because I want to get it in my head. It's just talking about dementia and not stigmatizing it so much, and being okay with certain parts of it. Not the incontinence and all that. That's difficult no matter who you are or what happens. And this is not just Alzheimer's. It's just dementia is the umbrella of all the diseases. Dementia's the umbrella, and all the diseases that cause it fall under it. But one thing she talked about is, sometimes you will see dementia patients. I've looked in on a memory care group, and you might see a woman with a doll, a baby doll, and it's just awful. You think it's awful. But this woman said, what's so awful about that? She's not going to get better. And if that baby doll brings her comfort and takes her back to a place that she loved, why the heck do we care? You know what I mean? And it was talking about people that sing or dance when they're old and they have dementia, and you think, oh, are they making a fool of themselves? Heck no, they're having a good time. It talks about a dementia person being dependent and how you feel like you should be embarrassed for them because they're so dependent on you or the family or whatever. You know what? Your life is full of that. You're dependent on people when you're born to keep you alive. You're dependent on people as you grow up. You're dependent on people as an adult to be friends, to be a help, to come alongside you. It's just a different level of that. It's more dependence, granted. But it's not wrong or weird or something to be ashamed of or embarrassed of, and not to make that person feel that way. I don't know. It was really eye-opening for me. So I'm glad I got it, and I'm going to keep reading bits and pieces of it when I have a few minutes, just to get it in my head. And then my next book, once I finish the kite book, Setting Free the Kites, is this book I found at the library. Jenny Colgan? Is that how you say that? Am I missing something? Anyway, New York Times bestselling author of The Bookshop on the Corner. This one's called Bookshop on the Shore, a novel. So anyway, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you become a reader too, if that's what you'd like. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.